64 people are already waiting. I think we're live. Let me check. Yeah, I think we're live. We're rolling. Welcome back to the second, unofficially the third, but officially it's the second show of, we call it now Splitting Atom. I think the name is much cooler. Into the Cosmos, I think, is a bit basic. So Splitting Atom is what we're going to go with. Everyone in chat, please tell us if the sound is all right, if you can hear us. Drop questions as much as possible. This is supposed to be interactive and for the cosmonaut community, and especially for Atom holders, because this show focuses primarily on talking about Atom and the Cosmos Hub value proposition. And I'm here with my co-host, Jack. Jack, how's it going?
Great. How's it going today, Cryptocito? Awesome to be on here.
Yeah, this is cool. I think everyone is like looking forward to this now. So every 2 weeks on Thursdays, 11 a.m. Eastern. So yeah, we also have Zaki in the house. I think it's your fourth or fifth time here, and the second time on this format. Zaki, how are you? All good?
I'm doing great. I just got back from Switzerland, so
nice.
A little jet lagged, but
Yeah. And then we have a premiere here today. We have a new guest that is for the first time on the channel, Dev. And I think the first few minutes, I don't know anything about it, but we'll apparently talk about the legend of Dev. So Dev, thanks for coming on. How is everything going on your side?
Yeah, things are going well. Excited to premiere on the Cryptocito YouTube channel.
How was the Superfluid staking cutting that PR? That was exciting.
Yeah, Eugen's been working on that for like months. So it's pretty cool. We went to like. Honestly, the biggest thing about that was getting the branch structure right for reviewing it. Because I don't know, we tried the whole thing where remember back in like when we were building the staking and gov modules, we're like, okay, let's make a bunch of small PRs because we can't review the mega PRs.
Small PRs.
But then you couldn't get a small PR that had enough details so you could have all the state. So I'm like, okay, abandon all the small PRs. Let's go back to a mega PR. And that branch switching took forever. But yeah, it was exciting. Now we're still working on tests and like getting invariant set so that
it sounds like we're not going to see Sunny Bolt then. That's sad.
It's a race against time. I don't know. I don't. Sunny's at 80%. Whatever it was 2 days ago or yesterday. This is a higher confidence interval than the code completion.
The deception is on.
Okay, so I want to introduce Dev because I think there are a lot of people in the Cosmos community that he is probably the least well known and probably like one of the biggest contributors to what Cosmos is today that is probably not very well known. So one of the things we were hoping to do in this is just kind of we have so many new Atom holders, we have so many new people in the community, and they don't know Dave. So let's fix this right now. So Dave was an intern at Tendermint in 2018 when we were trying to launch. And what are all the things that Dave did? Like filed like an unending number of like security vulnerability issues and fixes for those security vulnerability issues on Tendermint and on the Cosmos SDK. Dave is one of the co-authors of F1 fee distribution, which is the technology that which was one of the technologies that was like the biggest blocker on launching the Cosmos Hub, and two, basically allows us to like scale to all of these hundreds of thousands of delegators that we now have on Cosmos chains. Probably like one of the most defining Cosmos technologies was essentially Dave's idea, and the approach to that. Co-founder of Osmosis, obviously, has been running the Sika Validator with Sunny forever, basically since the Cosmos Hub launched.
Also kept me company in the Berkeley office for like a year when it was just me and Dev.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's see what are the other big polls. And then basically Dave left us for a little while to finish college for some reason. I don't know.
And on the side, you just start working on some Stark stuff.
But like, yeah, it was a co-author on a whole bunch of zero knowledge proof papers. Is probably, is now a much like probably like one of the strongest cryptographers in like the entire core, like kind of core contributor group. And has been basically like also just like mashing his way through like all of the performance problems and like performance and scaling issues in the Cosmos SDK, and is like one of the biggest contributors in performance and scaling and all of these issues that we've been working our way through. I think performance and scaling is going to be a big theme of 2022 for the Cosmos stack. And so, but like it has just been like by deciding to do Osmosis, decided to like jump into the lion's den of like all possible performance problems. But has been making his way through the Cave of Horrors, slaughtering monsters. So I think that was like hopefully that was a good enough job hyping Dave up.
Dave is now so hyped he's frozen.
Yeah.
But,
broke his computer.
Well, speaking of hyping things up, Zaki, you've been hyping liquid staking for quite a long time, and
oh my God.
I see some test nets coming online. So, how is the liquid staking work going, and what's the latest there?
Okay, so the latest thing with liquid staking is that we have a new testnet release. Liquid staking is a thing that I first started talking about in 2019. I think I probably gave like one of the first talks about why it's so important, and was Dave, I was hyping you up so much it broke your internet. Okay, so what's going on with liquid staking? So we have this liquid staking module that I've been building with some collaborators, funded by the Interchain Foundation as part of like my core. This is like probably the center of my like sort of core work on Atom for the last maybe like 6 months. This is primarily what I've been doing after Stargate for things for Atom. And so, the design is not particularly original. It's very similar to a design that B Harvest like built a prototype for back in 2019. Like it's not a completely original design, but it is a design that basically allows you to create these like minimally fungible staking units. So you'll basically get an asset which is like looks like the hub or the operator key of the Cosmos validator and a number, and those numbers just increment, and you'll get like a certain number of units of this. But the design of it is to allow people to build liquid staking assets then on top of it. So you could like Lido can build like a staked Atom, for instance, either on CosmWasm or on another chain. People can launch chains that issue staking derivatives. pStake can consume these things and make it part of the pStake system. There's going to be a lot of different ways in which these assets, but I'm basically introducing a new primitive into the Cosmos stack. And I think it's probably one of the better primitives that you can use if you don't, it'll make staking a lot more useful and a lot more powerful if you're talking about a chain that doesn't have a native automated market maker. If you have a native automated market maker, maybe you want to do superfluid staking.
It's you mentioned Lido, and you sort of briefly alluded to the history of liquid staking within Cosmos. We had that hackathon back in 2019, Interchain Conversations, where basically people spiked out on all of these sort of core ideas, and many of those ended up becoming multi-billion-dollar companies, which is kind of wild. So it's really cool to see all of the other things that came out of that Interchain Conversations. CosmWasm, Ethan Frey and the Region team hacked together a proof of concept WASM VM to do the ecological credit issuance. And the really funny thing about that team is Ethan has gone on to obviously like work on Cosm Wasm and launch Confio and do the inner Wasm DAO. And the regen team has, instead of building on Wasm, gone on to rebuild all of those things as Cosmos modules in their role of leading the Cosmos SDK. That meeting is the longer time goes on, it's just wild to see all of the stuff that's come out of it and how it evolves. But the liquid staking and the Wasm thing were the two big things. It really is.
The pain of open source is like design, dependency resolution, like all of this stuff. You know, it's always like, why does this take so long? And it's like, Cosmos, we don't have a dictator. Nobody just like sits down and says like, this is going to be the thing that we're going to ship. Instead, we all negotiate. You know, there's a continuous evolutionary process with a bunch of different stakeholders. And also, but like, you know, liquid staking is happening because I decided to ship something. And the ICF decided to help Iqlusion do that, and so grateful for the support of the ICF to make the progress that we've had, and like we decided to ship something, and it will, you know, I think it's a really good thing. I think like one of the defining characteristics of our liquid staking implementation is that you do not have to unstake and restake your atoms. You can take any delegation that exists on the hub, and as long as even validators can take their own self-delegation, and for a validator, as long as you don't go below your self-bonding limit that you set in your validator, you can convert any of your tokens, any of your stake tokens to these new shares, and then like participate in all of these systems that I'm expecting to get built on top of the liquid staking module.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest thing. Like and anything that didn't do that was gonna fail. Like just because I've been shocked by just how much the unbonding rate has not moved. Like atom holders like are committed to staking, which is awesome. But it also means that a staking derivative's not gonna have any fit unless they do the work that you're doing. Get it in the protocol layer so that you can have the existing stakeholders get liquidity.
Yeah. You know, speaking of stake rate, one of the interesting things as far as stake rate and validators recently has been Binance's movement within the validator set.
Well, I want to make one other point that I was like, there, which is I want to make clear that there's a very large implication for Atom economics from this liquid staking module, assuming all the pieces come together, right? If all the pieces of liquid staking come together, i.e. we have successful deployment of this module, successful deployment of one or more applications that consume these liquid stake tokens and then build useful yield generating assets on top of it, this is the path to first fixed inflation for atoms, and then eventually, you know, static or deflationary atoms as the atom economy matures. So I just want to I think people don't realize how big the implications of this are, but it's basically liquid staking is how you get to sane staking economics that require less expansion of the monetary supply, because you allow people to and like superfluid staking is also like sort of a valid movement in this direction. But basically what you want to do is you want to take what you're staking and make it an active participant in a DeFi economy, so that so like the staking yield can keep going, can go down without removing value at stake. Because like right now, if let's say we like have the inflation of atoms, everybody will be like, okay, I'm going to unstake my atoms and go put them in Osmo pools, right? Or 900 other things that people are going to exist. And unless we have a product that can allow people to stake their atoms and have value at risk on the hub, but also participate in Cosmos Fi, is going to be that's like that. It's key to changing the economics of atoms, and so that's one of the reasons why I think liquid staking, and specifically the way we've done the liquid staking implementation, is really, really key to like setting up bigger changes to atom economics.
Can I can you maybe go a little bit, like zoom a little bit out, because especially for those that are completely new now to Cosmos and they like, what are you talking about liquid staking? Just to compare, because there's already also other staking derivatives out there, right? The persistence team has worked on pStake. So people might have heard that one. And then everybody's throwing around this term superfluid staking. I saw somebody typed in a comment on my previous video, superfood staking. I think typo, but still, can you maybe compare those three, and maybe there's more that I'm not aware of, how they differentiate, and maybe Dev, you can also jump in to talk about the superfluid staking module.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's zoom out and talk about, okay, so pStake. pStake is an asset that primarily exists on Ethereum and backs essentially like it's like a synthetic asset that's created by like a multi-sig and is connected and is where like the atoms themselves are in a multi-sig, and then they're like, you know, there's a bunch of keepers that are moving value between the Ethereum chain and the Cosmos chain to allow this like pStake asset that trades on SushiSwap to exist. So you do have this, and you do have essentially the full product stack. And I believe also the pStake asset is being adopted by Terra's Anchor as one of the assets that you can bring over into Anchor. And you know, so you have this experiment with DeFi composability, but I think the like TVL of pStake is maybe $100 million right now.
Hard to get people to wait 3 weeks to unstake their atoms.
Yeah, so people got to wait 3 weeks to unstake their atoms, use a sort of unfamiliar interface. You know, it's not like you have access to pStake within Kepler. You have to kind of go over to their app. You have to unstake your atoms. There are security trade-offs that are like not well explained or understood to get this. And it's, you know, it's basically, you know, they're hacking together this system because we don't have native support in the protocol for liquid staking. And so that's like one possible that's like one thing. I could explain superfluid staking, but Dave, if you want to take a try.
Dave,
yeah, sure.
Let's merge the PR. Get at it.
Yeah, so the idea of superfluid staking is that, well, so if you do liquid staking, you have a problem with the security risk of, well, now if someone tries to attack the chain, you know, that the whole idea is that you if they try to attack it, you burn their money. It's at stake. But if it's liquid, then with the fear is that they can then go sell their staked assets, and basically someone else is holding the risk while they commit the attack. So but the reason we want this is because we want our economy to basically, we want people to be able to stake assets but also earn DeFi yields. So if you're making like, if your system's all in one chain, you can, or you know, you want to have like limited composability. What you can do is this superfluid idea of, okay, we'll go put that asset in DeFi, then we'll let our protocol reason about that DeFi risk, and then you can stake in with the protocol. So concretely in Osmosis, like for LP shares, we're going to have the protocol reason with the risk of an LP share somehow. So you suppose you LP atom Osmo, we're saying, okay, well it has, suppose there's LP, I don't know, 20 atom, 100 Osmo, assuming the ratios are right. We're going to say you can stake that LP share, and in exchange you'll get like 95 Osmo worth of stake of yield. And it's 95 Osmo of stake, not 100, because that's the protocol reasoning about risk somehow. And similarly, the idea of like, so that's the idea of superfluid staking. So you can do this for lending as well, where if I'm lending out Osmo, I also want staking yield on that.
I think that one of the things that help superfluid staking click for me is like, in order to have chain security, what you want is a bunch of tokens locked up, and to prevent the huge influx of tokens into this governance process. And like all of these processes you're mentioning, lending and, you know, liquidity pools, like that is locking your tokens up in a very real way. So that also does contribute to the security of the chain. So like, why don't we pay those folks staking yields as well? Makes a whole ton of sense. It's something I'm very excited about on Osmosis.
Yeah, an extension of this is like it's kind of cool is interfluid staking, where it's like, well, okay, hey, suppose you've staked Atom.
We need better branding on this.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like the name interfluid. It sounds too gross. I'm a big hater. But that is, I stake Atom. I have LP'd Atom Osmo. Well, if the Cosmos hub is fine with the Osmosis protocol risk, it can also treat that Atom as let that Atom be staked so the protocol can slash it in case of fault, and in exchange give those atoms yield as well.
So I think one of the other ways in which people experience the problem sort of viscerally that superfluid staking is solving for Osmo is, right now there's really a trade-off in any of the Osmo pairs on Osmosis about whether or not you want to be sort of in an LP pool against the Osmo token and earning, and then be subject to Osmosis permanent loss, and with Osmosis mooning as it should be. I mean, this personally, like right now, I'm staking more Osmo than I'm LPing, simply because you don't want that impermanent loss, and you can go earn yield staking. Now, if suddenly just naked staking Osmo gets outcompeted by superfluid staking Osmo, because everybody who's in Osmo pairs suddenly is able to earn both yield from the staking product from staking and yield from rewards and yield from transaction fees. Now you're okay, now it's no brainer. You LP. Which is what Osmosis wants. Osmosis wants people to be LPing against Osmo pairs. They don't want people, and they want and they just need to pay us for the impermanent loss risk, which is fine right now.
Yeah, is any of you LPing for Chihuahua?
Huh?
Is any one of you LPing for Chihuahua?
I'm embarrassed to say I haven't even taken the time to stake my Chihuahua yet.
You've missed out on so much yield. It's like
I know. Oh, my inner degen is kicking me. I haven't had time to pay attention to that.
I've also been. I staked the initial set, but I haven't restaked for a while. AUTHZ is really my savior. I've been trying to revive. I don't know. I don't know if people are interested in moving on, but I want to talk about AUTHZ.
Yeah, let's talk about AUTHZ. I think Gov and groups is sort of a part of this discussion, and this is important stuff.
There's a new feature on the Cosmos Hub. It's also live on Osmosis. It's live on a bunch of other Cosmos chains. It has really been changing my life personally, because Iqlusion makes extensive use of multi-sigs for management of funds. But multi-sig usability has always been a total disaster. Ethan was just complaining about it. It's really, and Ethan and I are probably big multi-sig power users, and there was a running reality for a long time that every multi-sig in Cosmos either needed me or Ethan in it, because we were the only ones who knew how multi-sigs worked. But so we're big users of multi-sigs, but this is even applicable to people who are just keeping a key in their ledger, which is AUTHZ allows you to take another key and say, hey, this key can do some things from the top level account. Now, the other problem is there's no UI for this right now. You have to do everything CLI. But it does work, and hopefully our friends at Kepler will make this more available. But you could do things now give what we have in Cosmos right now is really all of the in protocol features for being able to do something say, hey, don't allow my yes, you need my ledger key to move monies on Chihuahua, but if you want me to just withdraw rewards and redelegate, you could do that with a key that's in your phone. You could do that with a soft key on your laptop, because the risk of that is much lower than the risk of being able to steal funds. So I think we're it's fantastic, and hats off to the region team for shipping this. But it is just such a game changer from a usability point of view. And I've been starting to use it a lot. And I'm sort of starting to figure out what the best practices are. where do you want to use, like, is it better to just like delegate to like a single, AUTHZ, a ledger key? That was like my initial instinct, but that's turned out not to be like as much of a usability leap as I was hoping. But like delegating keys to a soft key, like that is, in your phone or on your laptop, is like totally it's like a usability game changer, because it just like turns everything into just like, a single command line command to like restake and stuff like that.
I can't wait till we get a service where I can just like give it a new AUTHZ, a new private key, and it'll just restake for me according to my current staking set.
That is completely possible within the current software, and like, we have
So
all
it's
the features for it, and like somebody just needs to build that.
Lens,
Yeah,
like when I get some time and we put some dev effort into Lens, like this is one of the first features that we're going to build. Zaki has a nice CLI design for how to incorporate AUTHZ into standard transactions. Just
honestly,
running that
I
on
had
a
not been
standard
thinking about
loop.
Dave's suggestion, which is just like move auto redelegation, like essentially into an off-chain keeper service. But like it's complete. There's no custody risk. There's no, it's not like you're handing over control of your account to some, centralized service. You're just, and this actually sounds like wow, I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't been on my mind, but like, it's such a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it if this service existed, like, it delegates some of my funds to your own validator, whoever is running it. Like, it's paying for the UX, and it's such a good UX.
You could actually delegate the function, like you could delegate funds to like pay, like you could delegate within AUTHZ right now. You could even delegate like enough authority to the key that it could like withdraw some funds periodically to itself to like
I know that.
Rate limit it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, you could because you could do limited sends, like sends with like a period of time, and you're allowed to like over this period of time, like you can send this many atoms from that account. So you could actually just delegate the ability to pay to like send yourself some money.
Oh, that's so cool. Man, when is this this needs to exist?
All the tooling exists. I think the biggest blocker is like a lot of people don't understand the sort of in and outs of AUTHZ. Zaki doing yeoman's work, actually experimenting with it, which is fantastic.
I mean, like this whole idea is like a whole new product line, like, right? It's
I think that there's
especially for Chihuahua.
For
Chihuahua.
Talked a lot about.
What I think is fundamentally great about what Chihuahua is doing is like, there was a graph tweeted. I think Josh tweeted it. Like Dogemus tweeted it like a little bit while ago, a couple days ago. Like I saw it while I was like in my like trapped in a hotel room COVID fog. But the where he was showing like the Kepler installs like inflecting when Chihuahua was released. And it's basically like it's honestly paying, like Chihuahua has almost become like a system for like paying for people to learn how to use the Cosmos stack, paying people to learn how to use Kepler, paying people to use and like these kind of like frontier applications, like, hey, like build a web service. The OmniFlix team Sisla would kill it crush it at building this. So I hope Sisla's listening, because like this is a great product.
Sisla, somebody we need on the podcast. Also, OmniFlix, I cannot wait to see that chain live. That is such a cool project.
Yeah, Sisla would crush it though at this task, but there's a lot of people who could build this, and so like we just like ideated it out of like but hit me up in DMs if you want to like a more concrete spec for how to build this.
I think somebody also made a tweet with a chart of when Chihuahua launched and the Osmo price, and then Osmo went above $10 or something since then. Crazy.
Yeah. Memes are so important. Like they especially when a meme like is a vehicle for a big idea. Like Chihuahua is a meme that is carrying the ideas of Cosmos. The Cosmos is a bunch of big ideas, but like the entry point into that is just like really important.
Dogs.
Yeah.
Turns out everyone loves dogs. One
It was
other,
also really cool at the early days of Chihuahua, seeing like that like the validators are forming like an actual union to get mad at a 0% commission validator, and it worked. Like they basically collectively bullied the 0% validators to raise their commission.
I mean, Dev, when we were sort of like coming up with the proof of stake model, one of the things that I think kept getting said over and over again was all of these proof of stake systems tend towards a single validator in control of the whole thing. And, that is kind of what all the models show. But what's been really cool in real life is watching that A, not happen, and then B, all of the different ways that these communities have, put price floors on validators. Juno has implemented a sort of floor for validator commission rates. So is Osmosis. And like watching these things get deployed in the real world and watching the stake not just all congregate towards the top 10. And in fact, the Cosmos Hub has gotten more decentralized.
So that would be another thing.
Yeah.
Well, I cut you off.
No. Well, I was saying that the Cosmos Hub has actually gotten more decentralized in terms of the number of folks that are required to get to 2/3 of stake. And that's really cool. Anyway, yeah, Zaki, how are you going to build
So
on
like one of the things that I think is really exciting about liquid staking is it's the first system it's a system that actually allows you to provide economic incentives for people to diversify their stake, because this top level staked asset will not want to be overexposed to the slashing risk of any one validator. So this top level asset, like the DAO that is controlling any given liquid, like synthetic liquid staked asset that's made out of the liquid staking module assets, will impose limits and be like, okay, this validator, I'm only willing to take up to this many, tokens from. This validator, I'm only, so suddenly you'll be like, that this, will annoy people because they may have to restake and redelegate, but it actually put like a healthy decentralization pressure on the validator set. I've been saying this since 2019. If we had kind of known now, what we knew then, we would have programmed liquid staking into the original staking module.
Do you think that any
like a convex V curve design happening with like validator choice selection, where you get this Lido like thing for choosing the validators, then you have like a convex style gov token putting that you buy to put to choose which validators, like the percentage distributions.
Doesn't the convex V-curve model sort of lend itself towards this sort of bribery type system?
I think that's what happens with Lido, though. Like, I think that's where Lido's going to go, is like that with some rate limiting and some like validator caps.
The alternate is we end up using something like Gov and groups and AUTHZ to sort of like delegate particular pieces of that to smaller groups that are able to make more equitable decisions and kind of spread it out a little bit more without this sort of institutionalized bribery. That's another thing that a lot of discussions around proof of stake talk about is sort of on-chain bribery and all of these various sort of economic attacks against these systems. And it's going to be interesting to see how, as this ecosystem scales, we can sort of build tooling to protect against that. And I think that Gov, groups, and AUTHZ are going to be some powerful tools in that. But yeah, I do expect to see some of these sort of V-curve style things show up on Cosmos, and it'll be interesting to see how they compete.
Yeah, I do agree that the ETHland has gone like too in favor of like governance bribery, where I think it's like not a good standard for blockchain.
Yeah, I agree. Somebody asked in the chat, which Cryptocito just threw up there, what's so bad about 0% validators? Anyone want to take a stab at this highly controversial topic?
As the former 0% validator of the hub, I guess I can
0% validator.
So I guess Sika, when the hub launched, we were a 0% validator at day zero, because basically we were like, okay, everyone's gonna have this race to the bottom for commission rates, so we're just gonna farm on all of it, and we're gonna be zero at day zero. And then we had this. Then everyone was like actually really validly claiming that, look, this is actually hurting the security of the network, because now other validators are forced to be like 0% to compete, and they're not getting commission or they're not getting paid margins to have good security setups or be active participants in the network. So we put a governance proposal up on the hub, asking like, are 0% validators considered harmful? And the hub like gave a resounding yes. Hence we changed it. And then and the overall idea is that like, look, you want to pay people to care about your network. If you don't pay them, they're just like not gonna be active participants in governance, in development, tooling. You're not going to get decentralization of these things, of all the things you want. It's already hard to center some consensus with 0%.
Yeah, I mean, so much building of Cosmos has been paid for by validator commissions. Like some of the validator commissions have been very parasitic. So it's not like universal, and it's certainly not like game theoretically optimal. How we're doing validator commissions right now, but like especially in this like early bootstrapping era of the hub and the early bootstrapping era of proof of stake is just like so much infrastructure built out was paid for by validator commissions.
It's crazy. The Relayer network is basically solely paid for by validator commissions at this point, which is just, I remember having those design discussions and saying that, and people were like, really? You think it'll happen? And wild to see it actually happening, because it's a non-trivial amount of money.
You think there should be a fixed minimum like we see on Chihuahua or Juno on all chains?
I mean, yes, we started with Osmosis because of this reason of like, look, let's stop this fight for 0 so we can get validators paid and get ensure everyone's getting paid, so we don't have to
and it turns out doing out of band rebates is such a pain that like no one really does.
No one's gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it. Like I don't know. I've been incredibly impressed with how much the validator community does.
And also, to answer also the question, it sometimes disqualifies you from airdrops. And there's many of them in Cosmos. So
yeah, again, we're in like a massive expansionary phase right now. So like people are like, why are there so many airdrops? Like, because we're in this like crazy expansionary phase of, the first years like of IBC are just like logically going to be like this like giant airdrop centric community building time period. Like it was always logical to me. I was always expecting it.
What are your guys' thoughts on this? When new projects being rolled out, that they give an airdrop just to delegators to a certain node. I mean, technically, Ion was given to Zika delegators, right? So you guys did it already. But what are your thoughts? I saw some people were like a little bit against this idea to kind of like punish all the other honest delegators and people that secure the chain and the network. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's, a great idea. It's a great way to build community. If you're looking to differentiate your validator, and I think all three of us run our own validator companies here. And when we were looking at the validator competition on the hub, we were all sitting back and thinking like, how are we going to show ourselves as something different from any other validator on this list? And why aren't people going to pick things? And, using these powerful economic tools that we're building as an ecosystem to incentivize people to come and say, we're doing something different here, and here's this cool meme that you can be a part of. I think that's fantastic, and I expect to see a lot more of it.
I also think, it's right for some projects and it's not right for other projects. I think, one of the things that has been extraordinary about the Zika validator was, right, that they were that Sunny and Dave really put a lot of energy into building community around their validator, probably more than any other validator in the Cosmos. They had probably the most small delegators kind of as and really built that community of self-custodying small delegators, which is something that I think has been incredibly valuable. And so when it came Ion was a token that had no purpose or plan, communities organically built on top of it. So I thought that, it was, the token distribution fit for Ion was really, really good. But it depends what you're doing, right? I think it would have been wrong to, for instance, preferentially distribute Osmo to Zika delegators, or it would have screwed up the community. So it depends like what you're building. And like the reality of a lot of the validators in the Cosmos is they are just like relentless builders. And so you can never really predict like what idea will pop into their head. And so nobody will ever expect these airdrops, but they'll happen and they'll keep happening and they'll happen for quite some time.
Yeah, I think the only sus thing is like when someone announces that we're gonna airdrop to our delegators like months in advance. I think that's
you're also taking a lot. Like, I mean, if you're in the U.S., it's a massive regulatory risk, and in a lot of other places, you do that. Like, retroactively doing it, being like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It might happen someday when you don't really know. Is like probably much less of a risk.
By the way, as we talked about, Ion, tomorrow 2 p.m. EST, I'll have Sunny and Jake on to talk about the Ion proposals. So. Everybody who's watching you, tune in tomorrow. That's going to be a big one, I guess. Jack, I think you were talking earlier about you wanted to say something about the Binance validator. Maybe you can.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I just was commenting that Binance has kind of gone up and down the validator rankings, and they had some huge on-chain movements. Always just cool to see that stuff in the Cosmos ecosystem. I think for the folks on this call, we were all stoked to see Binance, drop out of the top spot as the top validator, and be out of the active set for a little while, and seeing them come back at the top, it's like, that was disappointing. I was kind of hoping that would turn out a different way, but yeah, that was about all I had to say.
Where are they right now? Oh, they're in the first again. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I thought it was permanent.
I know. Yeah. But I did see another question in the chat that I'd love to come back to.
At least they rotated keys, which is a good thing.
Yeah, that's true. There's that is what happened. Okay, so they rotated keys. Interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Everybody
with
with
validator key rotation looks like.
Everybody who's holding funds on Binance Earn, or I know it's like very easy. Like if you hold funds on Binance, to like just click on Binance Earn, you have these yields. Just withdraw them from Binance.
Yeah.
Get familiar with Kepler, hold your own keys, hold your own coins, get your own airdrops, right? Binance didn't give out any Huawei or any other airdrop out there. So it's much wiser to
I mean, if you're taking on the centralized exchanges, you've missed out on enormous amounts of yield. And in all likelihood, you will continue to miss out on enormous amounts of yield.
Yeah.
Validator key rotation, a terrible process that takes weeks, is painstaking and leaves all of these like people publicly looking at you like, what are you doing? One of these days we'll get that fixed.
Yeah. It's
complicated.
It's not that bad, it's just I think like one of the things is like, I mean, I don't think many people realize just how strapped for dev capacity the Cosmos is. It's not a money problem largely.
If you're a developer, there's a lot of money here. Come hang out.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to get paid. We're very, very well happy to help you get paid to work on Cosmos. Jack has helped Jack and I, and we all have helped a lot of people get paid working on Cosmos. But we have just had massive dev capacity issues.
Something that just got PR that's been an issue for pre-hub launch was when you hit unbond, let there be a way to cancel your unbonding. Just no one had time. It's not that complicated. And it's been open for years until
also cancel a governance proposal. There's an open PR for that finally.
Nice things, just very nice things. There was a question in the chat about Atom as a holding company.
This one, right?
And I think that we should, I know Dev also has some thoughts on this. Would love to hear you guys chat about this idea.
Absolutely. I mean, like one of the things that this comes to interchain staking, right? Like what is the nature of the interchain staking product? And I think this is like kind of gone through a lot of different, I think there's a lot so I would say right now trying to nail the liquid staking thing is probably, getting liquid staking out the door is probably like one of the biggest areas of focus among the like sort of core Atom dev community. After this is going to be like the Atom as a holding company narrative, because there is an enormous, like, what is interchain staking? Interchain staking is basically Atom holders and their validator sets, and the validator set that they've selected, securing and holding equity in a new product and a new product line and a new token, and new tokens that are, getting, where people are getting rewards on the Cosmos Hub for, running these products. And this basically builds this whole like Atom as a holding company mechanism design into it. And there's a very natural place for this in like sort of any sort of multi-chain ecosystem. Yeah, and we're also, the other big mechanism design thing that like happened in 2021 was Olympus DAO and its bonding mechanism, which is also basically a way of structuring a token as a holding company. And so I think, we have basically, we are on the, I think that is like one of the general move. So Atom can be both money in the ecosystem, i.e. through liquid staking, Atom can be like the money of the expanding Cosmos ecosystem, and it can be equity in a holding company, which is the other direction, which is the other like sort of logical extension of that.
I think it's a lot of like value to be in the holding company idea. Like people are airdropping to Atom holders because they think there's value in Atom holders, governing it and as a community. But then why not let the Atom community should itself want to be able to play a governance role, want to be able to have a position in these other like these other chains, these other ecosystems it's helping build the tech for. So if we can get Atom like the Atom community pool to basically, or something like to be able to hold other tokens, stake these other tokens, participate in governance there, it can have its value tied to the growth of IBC and Cosmos as a whole by having shared some of everything. And it can serve this like S&P 500 style role and like just have a very aligned interest with other protocols. Because right now the incentive alignment's very like loose. It's like based out of goodwill of like all these parties, but it's nothing direct. Like the only direct incentive alignment Atom as a chain has done is the Evmos funding.
Yeah, and I think that is very much in the Cosmos way, where we start with these kind of informal processes that we develop as a community, and then we slowly formalize those on chain. And I think that you guys are both exactly right. Like this is going to be a key part of Atom value accrual moving forward, is how we formalize a lot of these informal relationships with these new projects launching.
Yeah. I mean,
Starport network potentially part of that as well. And maybe we need to get Pong on here next week. Or
I think there's going to be an interesting dichotomy. I think you're going to start to see tokens launch in the Cosmos that are sort of designed from day one to try and be holding companies. But I think there's a huge value to Atom starting to acquire holding company in protocol functionality.
And I think it's honestly like the most natural fit, right? Like the first one, the one that's like has the most like core dev alignment. Yeah, etc.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe Dev, I think we haven't heard your views on how you see the Cosmos Hub positioned in the broader Cosmos ecosystem. We asked Gregory last week and Federico, so maybe you can share your general thoughts on how you view the role of the Cosmos Hub in the entire Cosmos ecosystem.
Yeah, so I actually really like there's kind of two ideas, or a couple ideas I really like. One is this like interface with custodians, like working with off-chain integrators is a ton of work. And so like one of the value props of Cosmos Hub, I think, is to be this slow moving and do that integration work, like have the Binance, Kraken, etc. connections that's one thing. Or Anchorage, etc. Another one I think is big is Atom as a holding company. I actually think that's like a really big thing, where you want it to be this ecosystem coin that that you buy to like have to track the entire ecosystem, or and also it can directly support via governance, etc. And then I think the final one that's of tertiary importance is trying to be like money directly, like similar to how the role ETH plays in Ethereum. You'd want Atom to play that in all of Cosmos. But I think I actually think there's time pressure on that, and like Atom needs to start acting like quickly via governance, because I think that role, the longer it goes without like paying for doing the comms, the BD work to fill that role, the less likely it is to actually like
to succeed. What steps do you think governance needs to take in order to make that happen?
I think there's a couple. For instance, one idea was for liquidity mining in Osmosis. I think we made a proposal like early on, got rejected for a variety of reasons.
We need to bring that one back.
Yeah, I think that's actually a big deal. Another one I think is a big deal is like, people who are making marketplaces, like, there's already an NFT marketplace on Iris. There's one in Stargaze. Like, Atom should like ask, broach the question of what would it take to make Atom the base currency? Like, can we?
I know that OmniFlix and the NFT marketplace that Sisla is going to be launching plans to support primarily Atom-denominated sales.
Right, and so I think Atom needs to do the BD work to try to get that the standard for everything. Like, if you want Atom to be money, you want Atom to be what everything's denominates in. But there's always going to be a natural tension where other chains are, as an L1, going to want things denominated in their own token. So like there needs to like be BD work to find alignment, or to find some ways to like make this make something that works out for both sides.
Well, I'm going to say one word here that's going to trigger a couple of folks on this call. Photon. And the initial 2-token model that was always kind of theorized for the Cosmos Hub. One way this could potentially play out is that chains have their governance and staking token, and they don't really try to get that adopted as the sort of base layer currency, and it acts more as equity in the chain. And those chains would use Atom for fees, as well as sort of like other things within the chain itself. I think Kava, one of their first moves on enabling IBC yesterday was to add Atom as collateral to their CDP stuff. Yes, I very much agree with you, Dev. We need to have more of a concerted BD effort around that. I don't know who leads that right now. So if you're an Atom person and you're interested in leading an initiative and you like business development, maybe start thinking about a governance proposal. But the time is now.
Yeah.
And Dev, the proposal that you just mentioned, do you refer to the 52 on the Cosmos Hub to allocate atoms for liquidity incentives, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I should remember the exact number, but yeah, that's the proposal.
Yeah. Is it? I think wasn't there somebody who said he's working on a renewal of that?
I think someone on Twitter said that. Wikex, I believe.
But yeah, I think it was Wikex. Yeah.
I wasn't part of the conversation, so I actually don't know what happened. If it's been revived, that'd be really cool. I haven't seen a forum post, but if there is one, I might have just missed it.
And then what are your thoughts, Dev, about the whole interchain security? I think everyone's really excited about that one. IBC routing and the hub as kind of like the security source and also the interchain service provider. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think shared security is huge. I also think that like there's a very particular thing about IBC routing I think is useful, but not everything routing through the hub. I don't know which one's more better to talk about first.
I'd love to chop it up about routing on the hub, if you don't mind, Dev.
Yeah, let's do it.
The pushback is like everything routing through the hub. I just, as a first thing about this routing stuff, IBC is a permissionless protocol, and people are going to route point to point. We're not going to stop them from doing that. However, my thesis on this routing on the hub thing is that if you look at how these networks expand, and IBC is expanding at kind of an exponential rate, having these sort of routing functions, and token transfers may be a bad example for this. There's going to be a lot of other things that are going to require routing. And those are not going to have the same sort of fungibility issues that token transfers have. For example, interchain accounts. Routing interchain accounts messages through the hub and being able to do things that way, great. No fungibility issues there. And it allows the hub to help play this role of like helping secure and facilitate those things. And I think paired with, this is obviously a bit of a hand wave, and I'm happy to dig into technical details because like I'm kind of deep in this for a variety of reasons. I think something like chain naming service and then the proliferation of smart contracting chains, the ability to do kind of dynamic service discovery between different smart contracting chains via the hub and using it for routing, while maybe not immediately obvious, is something that I do think will be a valuable revenue stream for the hub moving forward.
So I guess my main concern is like, I totally agree with you. Okay, so like, I think we should solve fungibility.
You don't, which is good, and I want to suss this out too, because they're two very valid viewpoints, and like I think that a lot of people have heard me kind of get out here and defend this idea. A lot of people haven't really heard the pushback. So like, Deb, tell them what your doubts are about this.
So I think that point-to-point is like the most efficient way, but the core problem that's like being gotten at is that relayers, like running a relay between every pair of chains, is too intense. Like it is a very intense task. Whereas there's a relayer from like your chain to hub, and then hub to every other chain. That's okay, one step easier. But I think the problem is you don't want to get the ecosystem into a shelling point where all the money's locked in this path through the hub, because then you're paying for like extra latency, extra fee cost for and like a centralized point of failure, or single point of failure, not centralized, with the hub. If everything had to route through the hub. But I do think there's a way, but you can design things so like you could have it so that the hub as a relayer, where like you can have packets that go from, suppose, I don't know, chain foo to Osmosis, and you can have there be like a logical point-to-point connection between both things, but you don't actually care how the packet got relayed. The packet could get literally relayed from foo chain to hub, and then hub to Osmosis. So the hub's like in the middle for relayer convenience. But then, as far as Osmosis is concerned, it just saw it from foo chain and updates its local state. But then when foo chain gets really big, it gets lots of connections. It no longer wants to pay extra fees or extra latency. It can just go connect directly to Osmosis for the better speed. And I think that's the design we have to like. As long as we make that transition path, so there's no like migration, I think it's great.
Yeah,
and I think it's actually super valuable as well. But
I think there's a significant difference between IBC transfer, the one thing that people use IBC for right now. Yeah. So like this conversation is also like partially complicated by that, where I think people have a lot of trouble, like not people on this call, but people watching have a lot of trouble sort of envisioning what are these other use cases for IBC we're talking about. And, transferring tokens is just this packet of data. And there's all these other different packets of data that don't carry value in the same way and that don't have the same limitations of like keeping fungible tokens on other chains. And, this data will cause an action.
Can I give some examples?
Yeah, please. Zaki, tell them.
All right. So one thing that I think is really important for everyone to understand is wrapped tokens on other chains, and like the IBC token is like what email is to the internet. Like it's the first application, it's the first useful application, and like it has a logical consequence, which is it needs a DEX to be useful, and like this is like what you, and it's like the base layer, right? And so you see this in the EVM to EVM world, you see it in IBC. Every interoperability protocol is going to start out in this, but it also has this other thing going on with it, which is a weird dynamic, which is it's this like war for the canonical representation of every token. That's like implied by the like nature of wrapping tokens, because every time you use a different bridge, you end up with a different representation, and like sort of unifying those representations becomes like a whole battle. And like this is kind of the world in which we're living in, and it's probably the world we're going to live in for a little while. But everyone who thinks that that's the end stage of interoperability is like not looking at like the evolution of the internet, not looking at like all of like frankly the Agoric team's work on like all of this stuff for like, you know, the last like 2 decades. Yeah. Is so like, you know, in the future you're going to be able to tell the IBC network stuff like, hey, I have this many atoms and I want this many of this token on this chain. And you'll just be able to send out that packet, and like state machines will just process these transactions for you.
Yeah.
And like deliver your tokens where they need to be. You'll be able to say things like, hey, I want to stake here. I want to, like, you are going to see validator set messages, data availability messages, all being relayed. Like there's just going to be this like giant explosion of traffic and activity that, you know, and like service discovery. And a lot of it is just going to be automated. It's just going to run inside of state machines without any human intervention. You know, you're already seeing that with the injective band chain work, which is like a
great
really
example,
nice, like, initial example of just like 2 state machines that interact with over IBC and have there's no user involved in any of this stuff. It's just the state machine saying, hey, I need prices, and like getting the prices. This is the future. This is where all of this stuff is going. And so I think it's really important to realize that like wrapped tokens are not the be all and end all of interoperability. And like the war for the canonical representation is probably important, and especially short term, it's like there's a lot of value there, but it's like not the end of what we're building.
I mean, that, you know, just to sort of talk about that Oracle use case, which I think is a little bit fascinating. The Oracle problem, and Chainlink has talked a lot about this over the years, is essentially that in order to bring data into the state machine to like do stuff with it, you need to authenticate it somehow. And a lot of the Oracle protocols are basically like a key or a group of keys signing off on data and saying, hey, this data is good, and we can put it into the state machine. What IBC gives us the capability to do is, as we have more and more of these applications that are either generating, holding, or storing data somehow, with IBC, we can bring all of that data into the state machine, into different chains with the same kind of security assumptions that we get in IBC, i.e. if you trust the chain, not one signer, not a committee of signers, a full-featured validator set with hundreds of validators on it. If you trust that chain, then we can trust that data coming in. And those are much stronger security assumptions and a much better way to like solve this Oracle issue than a lot of the existing architectures out there. And it is just one of the many applications of IBC out there. And you know, Zaki mentioned that one live example. I think we see many, many more examples of this. I'm working on an IBC query protocol right now that's going to enable sort of doing queries on one chain and then bringing that data into the state machine of another chain in a very performant way, which is exciting.
IBC, like, yeah, I mean,
cross-chain swap for IBC protocols as well. So yeah, it's just beginning. Like,
yeah.
What about the IBC DAO that you teach? What is that about?
I really want to talk more about it. Yeah. So, do you want the alpha, Cryptocito?
We need the alpha. 170 people want the alpha.
All right. So IBC DAO, the core idea behind this is that we need to fund. So we mentioned earlier relayers. We need to fund IBC infrastructure. You know, there are a couple organizations that fund it, but you know, for a variety of reasons, that's insufficient to what we're seeing right now in terms of adoption. We're doing about 4 million IBC transfers monthly right now. I expect to see that 10x within the next 3 to 6 months. And the amount of support that is required there is just going to be way more than the current funding system and infrastructure can sustain. So what we're putting together is a group of folks, Dev and one of the members of the Osmosis team are going to be on this multi-sig. We've got myself, we've got Jacob from Notional, who is instrumental in IBC. I mean, he's been pushing the state of the art forward on relaying as well as node operations for about 6 months now, and just doing a really fantastic job. Some representatives from the ICF and the informal teams and Cephalopod who have also been, they build the Hermes relayer and do a number of other things. And then we're also working on getting somebody from the Terra ecosystem. We're deep in conversations there. So basically the multi-sig will make up representatives from all of the organizations that are kind of core to IBC right now and have helped bring it to market. And what we're coming together with one voice to say is that we need to fund the core development as well as the infrastructure operators that are making this thing happen in order to ensure continued growth for the next bunch of years. And the way that we want to do that is we want to go around to all of the community pools for all of these various IBC connected chains and ask the communities to fund this, to fund public goods. We are out here in this world that we're building ourselves, and there's no governments that we can rely on to fund these public goods. We as the initial communities here have to sort of set this precedent and have to say, we need this stuff. It is what supports all of this work that we all do. And in order to keep it going, we need to fund it. And that is kind of the core idea behind the IBC DAO. I'll have a lot more information about this soon. And we're in the process of basically reaching out to all of the core chain teams to sort of get alignment on that, and reaching out to large validators in the interchain to socialize this proposal. We're going to be putting up proposals on a number of different chains, discourse forums, or Commonwealth in the case of Osmosis, which is where these sort of initial governance proposal discussions happen sometime in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. And really looking forward to bringing this out to the community. I think it's going to be a really fun thing. And honestly, everyone who I've talked to about it is just super stoked. And it's cool to see the level of support that it gets when you're talking about funding public goods, which is something that's decidedly unsexy. It's cool to see the level of support that this is getting. So that is the IBC DAO Cryptocito. There's the alpha.
That's nice. Yeah, looking forward to that. How do you see that kind of like coexisting? Because you also proposed the routing module, right? The IBC routing module. So how do you see that in the longer term, coexisting or?
I think the two are kind of orthogonal. The IBC DAO is sort of IBC is this public good. It's pipes. It is HTTP. It's the internet, and this DAO is meant to fund the pipes and ensure that the pipes stay clean and keep working, and can get bigger and bigger to accommodate more and more traffic. And that's what the IBC DAO is about. The routing stuff is, we're on Splitting Atom here. We talk about the hub. The hub is, needs use cases and needs value capture. And, I think each one of these Splitting Atom shows that we do, we hear cool new things that different members of the hub community are working on that are going to drive a ton of value to Atom. And that's, I think, why Cryptocito, you and I wanted to start this show, is to have a place to talk about that stuff. And it's not small stuff, and it's not like one or two things. It's like a bunch of things. And Atom holders in the community here, we know that, and that's why stake rate's super high. People are stoked about Atom. But the IBC routing stuff that I work on is part of that conversation. This stuff with IBC DAO is definitely a level bigger, and it affects everyone in the ecosystem. I think 6 months ago when Osmosis launched, IBC was like this kind of technological curiosity in some ways. And what it's become, that the ecosystem has built it into, is much more than that. It's a network that carries billions of dollars of value every day. And that requires sustained investment and care in the core infrastructure technology that gets built. And I think if we have the people who build it come together with one voice and say, we need to fund this into the future to ensure sustainability here, the community will answer that call. And that's the support that we've heard from folks as we've had these initial discussions. And I'm very excited about that.
I mean, it's been interesting, right? Like I've always been the biggest opponent of in protocol or like IBC relayer fees, because the people who generate, like where the value is accrued from connecting to the IBC network is not really the user. Yes, the user is like usually IBCing because there's like yield or something else on the other side, and like you could potentially just like tax at that level. But it's really, you know, the DAOs at the center of every Cosmos chain that generate the biggest value from the IBC traffic that is going on. And they're the ones who are setting the incentives that drive that. And that's really where the IBC infrastructure should be funded. And so like the right and correct and rational thing to try is to have an IBC DAO that really funds the core infrastructure from all of the chains that are profiting from IBC instead of like making just like using the IBC network more expensive unnecessarily for users.
Yeah, making users pay is not the move for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if we think about this as a business and we step back and like you put yourself think of it as though you are the CEO of IBC, like in order to increase IBC adoption and to increase the power of this network, keep it free. It brings way more people in. And if we can figure out a way to fund that growth without having to charge users, that is by far the most beneficial way for us to grow this thing.
Awesome. Just wanted to bring up Sisla's response to what Jack said, that Atom will be supported even before Flix, which is a native token on the OmniFlix platform. So there we go. Things will be priced in Atom on OmniFlix initially. Yeah, is there any other topic that you guys want to cover? We're already at 1 hour and 10 minutes. It's just going so fast.
These things do tend to go a little over, I guess. It's a good thing I don't have anything on my calendar right now.
Nice. But I think this is like you said, Jack, this is not just another YouTube video, you know, where we pump Atom and give, you know, like, because most YouTube videos, they talk about just like price targets and we're going to the moon. But I feel this is like a working session and I'm just like listening and learning from you guys. And I know there's a lot of like founders and builders and other like community leaders from within the Cosmos ecosystem, but also outside in the chat and just asking questions. And I think this is really big. Like, I really hope that, you know, things come also out of this and maybe new partnerships and maybe new products or refined products or all these things. So I'm really grateful that you guys are doing this here with me.
I'm really grateful to you. Like, I'm grateful for you for doing this. I'm grateful to you for creating this platform for us. It is an immense amount of work. And so
none of us wanted to do it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, none of us have time and like, but this is, you know, this is great. You know, it's like one of the, it's like, it gives people a little bit of a view, and like, we have meetings where we talk about this stuff like basically every weekday of every week, right? This is typically what our morning is. Like, we show up, we do a bunch of calls, we talk about all this stuff, but like, it is a lot of work to like capture this in a way that is accessible to people. So, you know, having these like bi-weekly things, we basically talk about almost everything that is top of mind, everything that is like a problem that we have been trying to solve related to Atom and the future of the Cosmos ecosystem, like in this hour, you know. And it's been like, these are the things that like we think about and work on like basically all hours of the day, you know, in addition to all of our other projects. But you know, I think like one of the things that, you know, why are we doing this? Because we did one episode of this spontaneously, right? And the price massively went up. And like, the only plausible answer is that like, people are like, oh wait, they're still working on Atom? Oh yeah. Still working on it.
Yeah, I think in the last months, a lot of people from the community have forgotten this. And also, I think the purpose of this is to get people from different teams, right? We have Dev, who is mostly working on Osmosis, and Zaki, I think you're working on like 10 different things. So, but last time we had Federico on, we had Gregory on from Region Network, right? And just to show like, hey, these guys are all like actively building stuff or also around the Cosmos Hub and whatever they're building, how that kind of like translates back.
Is Region's work for 2 years, right? Like,
yeah.
I-
you know,
I mean,
and
Region's we talked about Aussie and Gov a whole ton on the last one, but like Region's background is like sustainable finance, like both from the ecological side, but also they do a ton of work on like organization design and like how to build like good organizations that are good stewards of things like this. And like they put a lot of great work into this Gov Groups module, and I think it's going to be the best DAO tooling out there in a lot of ways. Shout out to DAO too, which is also making pretty incredible DAO tooling, which also we will likely see on the hub too via Cosmosis.
So yeah, there's this is what we do. Is like, you know, it's like, you know, for last 3 years, you know, this has been basically a big part of my life, and you know, the rest of our lives is like, you know, we show up every day. We try to work. We try to negotiate with all the other stakeholders how to move all of this stuff forward.
Endev rates all the cryptography.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to a day when we get the performance problems of Tendermint and the Cosmos SDK under enough control that Dev can now do like wild crypto stuff on top of it.
Yeah,
Soon.
I can't wait to escape the trenches of IAVL.
You've been in those trenches for years, Dev. Just
I've been in the IAVL trenches for like
Yes, you have.
IAVL. So IAVL is the Merkle tree that we use in the Cosmos SDK for storing, you know, everyone's account balances and everything. On one hand, it is kind of a pretty cool system. It is also like very much a 2016 era design of how to build a data store for blockchain state, and it is a massive problem. And it is the biggest. It is right now the biggest performance bottleneck in the Cosmos. And there is both like a very extensive plan to replace it entirely with a more modern design, and then a lot of really good work in trying to improve the performance of it going on.
We have an open PR for well, it's still like nearing finishing stages, but it's massively speeding up everything involving live state, which is exciting.
That's what Justin's working with you on, right?
Yeah, and someone
Nice.
also now named Roman. It's converging now.
Wait, what's happening?
Is it Polychain Roman?
No, it's a different one. He's someone just got hired. Basically, okay, I can give you a TLDR. Basically, you know how the idea was we have sorted keys next to each other logically, so we can iterate fast. Well, turns out on disk, we hash them before we write to disk. So the keys are in random locations. So this is why iterates are essentially random file opens. And
Really?
there's two things that are bad.
Really?
File opens, and we have to walk the tree every time. So also, instead of just one file opens, 20 file opens. So things that should be RAM and cache reads are actually 20 file opens. And this is why Cosmos database is slow.
I cannot believe that.
Oh my god,
That's wild. Well,
so do we have a plan to fix it?
Yeah, we're making basically a second index that's sorted by key, not hashed, and that's where these speed up benchmarks are coming from that make it, as you'd expect, way faster, like 100x faster.
You know,
There are so many like hidden working 100x improvements in the Cosmos stack that like we have a lot that we can get. Like everybody's like, oh, is Cosmos fast yet? No, it's not remotely fast yet.
Just great.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, also that's one of the things that all the TPS sort of mindset is like, we're gonna have one chain, it's gonna be really, really fast, and like, you know, the only way to really scale this thing is network chains, A, but B, so many improvements to be made in so many areas.
A network of really, really fast blockchains.
yeah.
That's the dream.
We got it. It's going to be here soon. All we got to get done is that Jellyfish Merkle tree implementation for IBC, and then we got Open Libra, and it's game over.
Yeah. Awesome. I think we're at a
Great
natural stopping point.
Yeah, let's kill a Cryptocito. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a blast. Thank you,
This was
Dev.
really cool. In the meantime, I just opened the Atom price, and magically we're pumping right now. So whenever we do these videos, we're going up. But yeah,
This is what happened to me in 2019, right? Is like every single time I went to a conference and spoke, the Atom price went up. So it just like became like this never-ending cycle of Zaki being on a plane.
to get you back on these conferences then.
Yeah.
I tried it, and then I got COVID, and I got trapped in a hotel.
Cryptocito, do we have a plan for guests next week? I think I saw that you had booked a couple of folks.
Yeah, I think Pang would be nice. He's been on my channel only once. If we can get him, or Sisla, obviously. This is overdue. I think Josh has never been on my channel. We need Josh here as well. What do you have in mind?
Josh is a busy man holding up the entire cosmos with Kepler right now. Josh is like Atlas.
Yeah,
he's got it right here. I think those are great ones. So we should circle up and figure that one out. But awesome, great. Well, this has been a fantastic splitting atom, Cryptocito.
Yeah, it was really cool. Thanks everybody for tuning in, for the great questions. A lot of engagement in the chat. Also, people talking to each other. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. EST, I'll have Sunny and Jake on to talk about Ion. And then 2 weeks from now, 11 a.m. EST, we'll have the third episode of Splitting Atoms. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Thanks, Zaki. Thanks, Def. Finally, we resolved the legend around you. So yeah, anytime welcome back on the show.
That is deserved shall accrue.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll keep in touch and see you next time.